Hello everyone and welcome back to Toadstool Tarot. Robin here, and I'm coming to you today, or tonight, it's actually the middle of the night, with a hashtag challenge from Lisa Papez that came up from questions in a live group meetup last night called 21 Tarot Questions. Question number 1, what is the deck they'll have to pry out of your cold, dead hands? That would have to be my open face tarot, just because I connect with it on a deep level since I created the deck, and it has a lot of, I guess we'll say, subconscious meanings for me. And yeah, I just have a really personal, close relationship with it because I sort of channeled it onto paper through a watercolor pencil, and it helped me discover more about what tarot is and what tarot isn't for me personally. So because I have such a close relationship with it in the creation of it, it probably would be the last deck to go and the one to pry out of my cold dead hands. This might also be a deck I'd keep closest to me and sleep with under my pillow. So anyway, that's prompt number 1. Number 2, what's your guilty pleasure deck? This was a little bit tricky because I don't even know if this is really a guilty pleasure. This is more a guilty pleasure because of the way other people think of it. It's called the Tarot for All Ages. And I love the style of it. But I think because it's titled what it is, a lot of people think of it as a deck for children, which kind of irks me. And I guess that's why it's a guilty pleasure. I love it, whether it's for children or not for children. I relate to it, and I enjoy it very much. It's kind of a pip deck, which also could relate to another prompt later here about a favorite pip deck. That's the Tarot for All Ages, and I truly believe it is. Number 3, what's the deck you wish existed? That would be possibly the Avengers from the 60s TV series with John Steed and Emma Peel. It's a British series, sort of a spy, secret agent kind of thing that has a sort of a surreal quality to it. I'm not sure. I love the idea that that would make a great deck, but and they could pull images from any of the numerous years stills from the TV show, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sure about fan type decks, even though I love that series and I'm watching it again on Amazon Prime. I'd be curious to see a deck like that. Whether I'd use it in the long run, I don't know, or whether I'd just keep it as a fan deck to look at the still images. I'd have to see. Number 4, what deck would you give to a new reader? That would be the Smith-Waite Centennial in a tin, because it's a nice size to handle, it's protected in a tin, and it's also the sort of Rosetta Stone for most Rider-Waite themed decks. And I love the illustration quality of this deck, the coloring, the definition in the line work, and it's an affordable kind of beginner's deck. Don't know if I'd advise sticking by the little white book that comes with it. I'd probably send you to just work with it on your own for a while, but maybe look for a better guidebook on the Rider-Waite Smith system, or Smith-Waite system. Oh, those are the backs. What deck do you want to get along with, but it just never clicked? That would be the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot. The images are beautiful, but I never have quite related to reading with them. Most of them don't quite make sense to me, but they are really pretty images. Pull a couple of them out for you. These are the backs. Not focusing very well. Let's see, what's next? What deck do you only keep for the art? This is number 6. That's probably the In Dreams Oracle. It's an oracle with gorgeous art that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. These are the backs. They're oversized cards, which is another thing that I don't like, and they don't have any words on the cards, which I do like, but if you look up the numbers in the guidebook, the descriptions don't really help at all. But it's very pretty art and a nice palette, sort of a honey-colored palette. Let's see, what's next? What deck did you buy because everyone else did? That would be the Thoth deck, and I have 3 versions. And my favorite version is this playing card size one that came in a boxed kit with a book that had color illustrations, but really was not particularly helpful in terms of using as a guide. This is also a deck that I have had trouble getting to use. I pick it up now and then and can't quite get there in terms of understanding or following it. It's a bit of a struggle for me. What deck is over your head or just baffles you? Well, the Thoth does, but the other one I picked is the Navigators Tarot of the Mystic Sea. It has really beautiful but puzzling images in it. These are the backs. And it's got some keywords on it, but yeah, I don't know. Number 9, what deck surprised you? I guess that would be the Lunne. I am generally not a big fan of watercolor illustrations that are more or less realistic, but I love the colors in this. I love the soft, gentle, and peaceful nature of the imagery. And it really surprised me that this may be reminiscent of other decks that use similar styles, but somehow I am into this one where I'm not into a lot of other decks with this type of illustration in watercolor. I also love the palette in this deck that's very soft and gentle. Number 10, what deck doesn't really work for you, but you keep it because it's a collectible? For me, that would be the Tarot of Delphi. I got it just before it went out of print, and then it became highly collectible. And the cards are very pretty. It's sort of neoclassicist, kind of pre-Raphaelite or symbolist art era, based on a lot of sort of mythical legends and imagery. Quite beautiful, but doesn't really read well for me. And I mostly just keep it because it's rare, out of print, scarce. I'd hate to get rid of it and then find later that I wanted it back. I wouldn't be able to get it back. It's very pretty. Number 11, what deck is your favorite gilded deck? That would be, where did I put it? That would be Cat Black's Golden Tarot. And I think it's because this deck reminds me of a trip to an art museum, a classical art museum, where everything is heavily varnished and preserved and framed in exquisite gold frames. This is a bit like the trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art or something. It's a collage deck with classical art images from the Renaissance. And I think it's probably one of the best collage decks. Works really well for me. And I don't usually like gilding on decks, but this one works. It seems fitting somehow because it looks like classic old art that should be valued. So I don't mind the gold borders. Let's see, what is next? Which deck do you love but hate the card stock? That would be a Japanese deck from 1973 called the Keishobu Tarot, which I have somehow misplaced here. I can't find it at the moment. But recently I acquired it off of Make Playing Cards, as it was reissued under the name The Old Fellow Tarot, and have it on linen and a plastic version. And it's a great deck. It's just, I had wanted this for a long time on a stock I could deal with. The original one is very stiff, kind of serial cardboardy stock, which is unpleasant to use. It doesn't really glide or shuffle well for me. It just doesn't feel pleasant to the touch. But this version is great. What deck, number 13, what deck gives you the willies? Well, that would be possibly the Carte Postale Tarot. And that's because it's made up from old postcards, vintage postcards, and you have to be kind of in the right mood for it. The cards have a sort of faded quality to them and are kind of haunting, and they kind of remind me of something you might find in an aging relative's attic in some old storage box, or maybe cards you found at a flea market. Picturing people long dead and gone. There's a kind of a ghostly quality to it for me. So kind of gives me the willies. I like it a lot, but it's a little bit on the creepy side. I think a lot of old photos are that way for me. Vintage images. Number 14, what's your favorite deck for shadow work? I include shadow work in all the decks I use, so I can't pick a deck just for that. I don't I don't really use just one deck for that. I find those elements in every deck I use. Number 15, what deck do you love in theory but not in practice? That would be the Tarot de Marseille. I love the historic nature of it, but tend not to use it very much. I generally don't use pip-related decks very much. Number 16, what deck would you never use to read for someone else? Anything that's scarce enough to be irreplaceable. Number 17, what deck would you never use for yourself? Any that I can't relate to, like maybe the Dante Tarot. This is an interesting deck, but the images relate to Dante's Inferno, I think, or the Divine Comedy. But it's just it's sort of a different system. It doesn't strictly follow the Rider-Waite Smith system, and the images intrigue me, but they don't exactly read the same way an RWS deck would, and I don't really have any interest in investigating Dante's written work and learning how to work with this deck. I just bought it mostly because I like this palette and these borderless cards and this particular style of imagery. What deck, number 18, what deck could you not bring yourself to buy? Anything that I deem beyond my spending budget. And that's saying a lot, because I've set myself a limit of $200, and I wouldn't even like to go that high. I think that's the most I've ever spent for a deck, or maybe like $193 or something like that, but I set my limit at $200. I think I spent about $189, $193, something like that, for the Moroccan Fez, the Royal, what's it called? Do I have it handy? Royal Fez Moroccan deck, which is beautiful, but I never used it. The cardstock is matte and has a kind of a soft, papery feel to it, and I don't know why I don't use it, but I don't use it very often. I love it, but I just don't use it. But yeah, I just spent $139 on a deck that I wasn't able to get for quite a long time, and I don't usually like to go over 100. But yeah, so I couldn't bring myself to buy a deck that was over 200, I don't think. Number 19, what's your favorite pip deck? That would be the Tarot de Marcella Robledo, which is in a nice box. Actually, I'm not that crazy about the designs on the box, but it is in a nice 2-part box. And I love the size of the cards. They're a little bit narrower than usual tarot cards. And as far as Marseille decks go, I really like the coloration and the shading and the definition. In terms of the classic art, this is the one. This is sort of the perfect one for me that I found after searching through lots of other Marseille decks. This one is perfection for me, and I need look no further. Number 20, what deck slaps you with the truth? Slaps is the wrong word for me, but I would say it's any of the decks that I use the most. It's because they're easiest to read. They're most on the mark with me when I do a reading with them. Every single time it clicks, and that would be my Open Face Tarot, the Rider-Waite Smith, and the Old Fellow, possibly the Lunne. Last is number 21, what's the deck that got away? For me, that is the Little Monsters Tarot, the first edition in the smaller card size, which I just recently acquired after searching for several years. It's a pen and ink deck, and even the larger size is out of print now and very hard to find. But this one was impossible to find, and I finally did, and I'm thrilled to have it. My camera isn't as sharp focused as I would like, and these are fine line pen and ink drawings, just exquisite close up. And I'm thrilled to have it in my collection. It's funny too, it came just in time for Easter, and all the cards are in these sort of egg-shaped borders. So that is the challenge or prompt for hashtag 21 tarot questions. Thank you to Lisa and Peggy, who came up with the idea and wrote all the questions down, supplied by people in the chat room of her Sunday evening gathering online. And I want you all to take care, and I will see you all again soon. Thanks for joining me.